Here's some disturbing history facts that the elites and powers that be do not want us to know. Now, maybe you've heard of Nikola Tesla. Well, in the year 1900, he wanted JP Morgan to fund his project on wireless communication. Now, this piqued JP Morgan's interest because he owned AT&T, and he was trying to figure out how to transmit messages through wires. So for Nikola Tesla to be a step ahead talking about wireless, he like, hey, this could help my pockets. And we're gonna get into how deep JP Morgan's pockets were, because he was one of the richest men in US history. He owned General Electric, AT&T, he owned steel so that it could fund his General Electric business. He had rubber farms so it could coat his wires. And he owned all these timber factories so that he could make telephone poles for the wires, copper mines so that they could be conductors inside of the wires to spread energy, coal mines because he owned power plants, and then he had over 24 railroads to distribute all of these materials across the US. So there went Nikola Tesla off to the pyramids to study them. Now, pyramids were studied by a lot of scientists, inventors, our government, the military, because pyramids were understood to be power plants. Not only did they vibrate with the frequency of the earth, 440 hertz, which even Apple gives a nod to that, but the stones and crystals that were found on the outside and inside of the pyramids were far better conductors than copper and some of the things that we use that are very expensive and even dangerous today. For instance, quartz is a much better conductor than what we have today, and our energy would not only be less costly, but more effective and more efficient if we were to use that throughout our technology. Tesla was already making headway with his Tesla coils and wireless power. Matter of fact, when he laid down unscrewed in light bulbs on the ground around an activated Tesla coil, they would light up. So Tesla got very excited about his findings and was ready to bring it back to JP Morgan so he could tell him about all the ways in which the world could receive free and accessible energy, revolutionizing the way that the world communicates and connects, and the technology built on top of that. JP Morgan instantly got worried because he's like, I own everything, and this undermines all of my investments. So he immediately pulled funding and told all his constituents and investors, don't touch this man with a 39.5-foot pole, and then decided to invest in his competitors, Edison and Marconi. So Tesla ends up going bankrupt, dies in debt, and then his Tesla tower was dismantled and sold for scrap. And then they say they destroyed his research, but we know they didn't destroy his research. The government has his research, and they've been extending on his technological developments and findings and gatekeeping it from the public. There is technology that exists beyond our wildest imagination. Technology that can move us so far forward in human development and productivity that some of the problems, the day-to-day problems that we have and that the world has, would be laughable. We live in a world ran by science, math, and technology, but in the US, that is where we are least proficient.
Coincidence? I think not!
So the entire world's access to power and development has been changed because of one man's greed. And society has been shifted and motivated in a direction that doesn't promote human efficiency. Meanwhile, whenever there's technological happenings outside of our understanding, they're either credited to the military, false phenomena, or some grand alienistic mystery. Meanwhile, this is just the Matrix, or at the very least, we live in the dark ages of the age of information and technology. Now with that, let me know your thoughts.